everyone, Alicia from Budget with Alicia here, and I wanted to talk today about how to create a budget and the simple steps to take before creating your very first budget. Because I have a few things that I did, and I think that they were monumental to my success with paying off debt and with saving money, and I wanted to share them with you. So tip number one, this one is going to seem a little bit weird, but stay with me. So what I did is I went to my bank and I printed off 12 months of bank statements. That was my very first thing that I did before I did anything else. So what you do, you don't have to do 12 months. You could do 6 months if you'd like, but you do want to include any credit cards or lines of credits or anything like that you do spend money on, that aren't just like if you put your cell phone on there or something. Like if you spend money on variable expenses on a credit card or a line of credit, you want to print all of those statements as well to get the full picture. Then what I did, I sat down with a nice cup of coffee and I highlighted different categories that I felt I needed to work on, where I felt like my money was probably going towards. For most people, it is probably like eating out, recreational activities, miscellaneous spending on random things you don't necessarily need, things like that. So what I did is I went through and I highlighted like all my bills, all my subscriptions, all of my food, all of my, including groceries and eating out. You can separate those two if you wanted to. Any miscellaneous spending and anything else that you think comes up in your budget, you can also include in a separate category. Once you have all the categories, you add those all up for all 12 months together into one amount and divide it by 12. Then you get a rough idea of how much you spend per month in a better average. Because sometimes if you were to do just like 1 or 2 months, maybe you had a little bit more spending or a little bit less spending because of something that altered that change in you. So I would do it for at least 6 months, but I would probably do it for a full year to get your full real picture of what you do and how your spending is. So once you have that figured out, you can see then very clearly, and it's something that really stuck with me. It still makes me anxious, even though I am now debt-free and don't spend nearly what I used to. It still makes me nervous to even think about it because the numbers were crazy. It was way more than I thought it was, which is a big reason why I do the cash envelopes method instead of spending on my debit card, is because if I spent everything on my debit card, I would think I spent $10 and it would be $200. Like literally, I am like the worst for that. I am not good at remembering how much I spent on a category if I don't have it separate in an envelope, which is why I do what I do the way I do it. But that is tip number one, is to figure out what you're really spending on those categories that are probably hurting your budget. The second thing is to figure out how much you could limit those said things to. So that happens for both bills and variable expenses. Everything that you looked at there, you can change a little bit. There is room for growth. So the first thing I would do is go through all those variable expenses, figure out how much you really think you could get away with spending. How much you really think you could cut yourself down to. Now, you don't want to go crazy overboard right off the hop. You probably want to give yourself a little bit of leeway and room for improvement over the next few months. You can obviously lower that amount, but you want to make sure that you're going to be fed, you're going to be okay, that you're not going too crazy overboard right off the hop. Going from spending lots of money on things to spending nothing is going to probably make you quit. So I did mine like somewhere in like a good ballpark, that I knew that I would have extra money left over or that I would be spending a little bit more than I should. And then I slowly crept that down until I am at what I am now. So obviously the less you spend on those variable expenses and unnecessary spending, the more money you have to go towards things that are important, things that are intentional, and things that are your priority. So the more you can, the better, but don't give yourself so limited resources that you quit, because then there's no point, right? You want to be able to stay on track with this until you are a budget queen like me and can't not think about it all the time. So you want to start off the best you can, and you yourself will know that, but you do want to be a little bit harsh with yourself. You don't want to give yourself tons of money and pretend like you are budgeting. I would try and give yourself a little bit less than what you feel comfortable with, to give yourself a little bit more of a strategic goal and an accomplishment and a challenge. So once you have that, then for bills, you can look and see if there's anything you can remove. So things like subscriptions, if there's any subscriptions that you don't use, or other things like gym memberships, any kind of memberships or anything that you don't use, that you spend money on, that gets charged to your card and you don't even use, get rid of it. Anything that you think you can get a lower amount on, like if you can change cell phone providers, if you can limit or get a better quote on your insurance, different insurances, things like that, try and lower any bill that you can. And that also includes like utilities. Try and limit the use of your lights. Always do your laundry at the off-peak hours, all that kind of stuff as well, to kind of lower all the bills down. That's the next step. The next thing that you want to do is figure out all of your debt. So for debt, you want to get down with a nice piece of paper, write down every single debt that you have. So you want to include anything that you, any loans, lines of credit, credit cards, and any money that you owe to family or friends, okay? You're going to write down all of those things. You're going to write down, if you know the interest rate on them, write that down, write down the balance, and write down your minimum payment or monthly payment, depending on what kind of trade line it is. Once you have all that written down, add those up. Then take a shot of whiskey if you need to, and we're gonna get you on track, okay? So it doesn't matter how far into debt you are, you can accomplish this. You can do it, okay? I believe in you. You need to believe in yourself. You can do it. If I can do it, anyone can do it, okay? So you're going to take a shot of whiskey if you need to, do whatever you need to do, and then we're gonna regroup and start a plan. So there's two main ways to pay off debt. There's really probably many ways. You can really do whatever the hell you want, but there's two main ways that people typically do. One is the debt snowball and one is the debt avalanche. So for debt snowball, you order all of your debts from smallest balance to largest balance, and you pay them off one at a time. So you do your minimum payments, and then you would include any additional money that you have. If you have any extra money at the end of the pay period or at the end of the month or whatever, you can apply that to the smallest debt. Then once the smallest debt is gone, you will use that minimum payment. So let's say you had a $200 credit card and it was $10 a month. You would put the $10 on the next one down, as well as any money you had left over. So you continue to move your minimum payment plus anything that's left over down the line until they are all knocked out and gone, just like a snowball gets bigger as it goes down, right? So that's how the debt snowball works. I think that's what I did. Mine, it probably didn't really matter because I had two debts that were pretty much the same balance and pretty much the same interest rate. So it really didn't matter which one I started with. But I did do the debt snowball. I did start with the smaller one and then did the larger one. Now, for people who have small debts, like if you owe your mom $100 and you have 5 credit cards that are all under $1,000 or whatever, like if you have a lot of smaller debts that you can get rid of really quickly, once you're intentional about your money, I would do the debt snowball. The reason for that is because it gives you momentum. Paying things off gives you that like motivation and that like congratulations and that celebratory moment of paying something off and being done with it. If you do the avalanche, it may not go quite as like motivating, I guess. So when you do but it depends. Like if you don't have any small debts, then you can do it either one you would like. So the avalanche is where you do it based on interest rate. You would do the highest interest rate first and move your way down. Now, the reason that the interest doesn't matter a ton, now some people are going to disagree with me on this, but the reason that doesn't matter a ton is because you're not going to have this debt for hundreds of years, even 10 years. You are going to pay it off as fast as you can. So over the period, you're not really paying as much interest as you think you are, paying it off in the debt snowball instead of the avalanche, or vice versa, because things like that, like the interest accrues based on how long you have the debt, right? So if you're planning on being debt free in 1, 2, even 3 years, something like that, even 5 years maybe, you could do the calculation if you want to on your specific situation. But over that time, I don't think you're going to pay as much more interest than you think you are to do it that way. But you can do it either way you want. Paying off debt is paying off debt. That is the goal. That's what we want. So whatever makes you happy and makes you want to pay off debt, go for it. Now, there's one thing that I would say though. If you owe any money to family or friends, I don't care if it's $100,000, I would do it first. And more so, I'm kidding about that. I mean, if it's $100,000, maybe not. But the thing is, when you owe people money that you are friends with or that you're family with, it can be a little awkward. Now, it depends on the situation. Like if they gifted you the money for down payment on your house or something and they don't want it back, or they're not like bugging you about it, or you don't feel like the relationship has been affected by it, then that's one thing. But if you feel like every time you go over to their house, they're thinking, where the hell's my money? Pay it first. Like just get rid of it, get it out of your life. Relationships with people is more important than money. Do not let money affect those things, okay? So you want to get rid of those first. The credit card company doesn't give a fuck who you are or anything, right? So you just want to get rid of the family first and then move on. Obviously making your minimum payments though, so you don't affect your credit. Now, once you have all that figured out, you know what your debt is, you know what your bills are, you know what your variable expenses are, it's time to make a budget. So here we are 10 minutes in and we're gonna actually make a budget. So what you're gonna do, I do have bundles of budget sheets on my Etsy. I will link them down below in case you'd like to buy them. They're digital, you can get them right away if you don't already have budgeting sheets to do so. But basically what you do is you line up all of your income for the month. That includes if you're a couple, then both of your incomes, whatever. And it also includes any additional incomes that you have. So if you have any part-time jobs, side hustle income, child tax benefit, spousal support, child support, if you're retired and have retirement income, anything like that, you want to add all those incomes in there for the entire month. If you are paid and you get a little bit different paychecks each time, or your commission and it's always different, I would do your budget for monthly based on the lowest it could possibly be, or a little bit under what you think it will be, so that you know you will have this amount of funds that you're figuring out for sure. After that, when you do your weekly or your bi-weekly pay, you'll know what your pay is and you can just alter things if you need to, or have a little bit extra money at the end to put on your debt or wherever you see fit. So you're going to put all the income, add that up. Then you're going to put all your bills for the month and add that up. So you're going to put the minimum payment that you have to pay. Or if it's something that changes a little bit, like utilities and stuff, I would do it like a little bit higher than you think it'll be, so that you know. Basically for monthly, it's not 100% accurate. I find that my bi-weekly pays are a little bit more accurate than my monthly is, because it's a little bit of a guesstimation, but you want to make sure you have all the money and things figured out. Then once you have that, you can minus all of your bills by the income and figure out how much you have left. Then you're going to do your variable expenses, all of your food, gas, spending, all that kind of stuff, where you can alter it if you need to. If you have something going on that month that you need to increase it or lower it because you know you're going to be doing whatever and you aren't going to need as much money or whatever, you can change that in there, and then you minus that from what's left. Then if you have debt, you would move on to any additional debt payment you would like to make. And then you can get into sinking funds if you want to. Now, I did a few sinking funds while I was still paying off debt, but I didn't do as many as I do now. If you watch my channel, I have quite a few sinking funds now, but I do not cash or stuff them all every single time. I usually stuff maybe 10 of them, probably less than 10 each time, typically. But the ones that I would say would be important to do is if you celebrate Christmas, or if you have a vehicle that is an older vehicle and isn't on any kind of warranty, while you're paying off debt, I would make sure that you include a Christmas envelope and a car maintenance envelope. If you also want to do like maybe a gifts envelope for birthdays, that would also be one that I think are important. You don't want to go over the top on sinking funds, because the more money you put in sinking funds, the less money you have for your debt. So you have to remember that, right? Like, yes, you're doing savings, you're doing things that are great for you, but you're paying off less debt because you're putting less money in towards debt, obviously. So, but I think those things are important because car maintenance and Christmas and birthdays, those things can really put you in a pickle. Like the amount of people, and I'm not judging anybody who does this because I understand, but the amount of people who don't budget and save for Christmas and then put all the Christmas money on their credit card, right? Like you don't want to go backwards because you didn't save for it, right? So if you pay off debt, you're so excited and you pay off all your credit cards, or you pay off a credit card or whatever before Christmas, and then you don't have any Christmas sinking fund money, you're going to have to put the Christmas back on the, right? On the credit card. So you're really kind of like, it's like between, right? The other thing is that you do want to have some car maintenance money in case something happens to your car. That can also really affect your budget if something were to happen, right? Like you want to have some emergency funds for those types of things while you're paying off debt. Now, if you follow Dave Ramsey, he says to have $1,000 emergency fund for things like that as well. So you could do that first before you start paying off your debt. And then not do the sinking fund. So it's totally up to you, but at least have something that you have to the side in case you need it. So that's kind of how you start a budget, but let me know down below. I'm going to be doing some more talking through type videos on my channel over the next few months and probably forever. I have only been doing cash envelopes mostly for the last year, and then now I've just started doing my budget with me. So I'm going to start doing some more talk through type videos about how to get people on track and things like that, because that's something that's really important to me. It's not just about me and my personal finances. I want to help other people be able to achieve debt freedom and relieve their social anxiety, or not social anxiety, that would be nice, their financial anxiety. Now, if you want, you can also follow me on my Instagram. My Instagram is Budget with Alicia. I post a lot of content on there as well. And I also have a TikTok where I do shorter videos that have lots of information and stuff like that. So it is also Budget with Alicia. So follow those as well and make sure to subscribe down below. But I will be back soon. And we will continue on trying to get everybody back on track and loving life a bit more. So let me know down below if you have any questions or if there's anything you'd like me to cover in my next video. But I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.